Hello, everybody. I recently had a chance to hear Gustav Mahler Symphony No. 3 in a live performance, and I thought I'd share my reaction to it, my thoughts about it. Um, I heard this 4 days ago, 4 evenings ago, and I heard the performance I heard was by the National Symphony Orchestra here in Washington D.C. Here's the playbill from that night. And the conductor was the conductor at the NSO, who is Christoph Eschenbach. You would think I would know how to pronounce that since I live here, but I don't know. Um, it was really a great performance. The soloist that night was Anne Sofie von Otter, and this is actually why I decided to pick up a ticket and go to this performance, because I had heard her, on some other things, music I've listened to on Spotify and whatnot, and she's apparently, world famous soprano, mezzo-soprano, and has done a lot of recordings and actually won the Grammy for solo classical performance this past year for an album she did. So I knew the name, and so when I saw that it was here, she was coming to perform here in Washington, I decided to get a ticket and go. So I'm really glad I did. I thoroughly enjoyed it. The choir that was playing, that sang that night, I should say, was the women of the Choral Art Society of Washington, and then there was the Children's Chorus of Washington. So, just disclaimer, I'm not a musicologist or any kind of music academic. I'm strictly the concert-going public. So I'm not an authority on Mahler or Symphony No. 3 or giving any kind of music critiques in general. I just thought it would be nice to just share my sort of everyday man's experience of it. So if you're not familiar with it, which I wasn't, and going into it, it's very long. It's 6 movements long. It takes about an hour and a half to hear the whole thing. So I've done a little reading on it since hearing the performance, and apparently it's Mahler's longest symphony. It takes the longest. And so it's very interesting, though, because it's divided into these 6 movements. The first movement by itself is 30 minutes something long or more. And the way he divided it up, each of the movements has sort of a theme title. And so when I was doing reading on it, the first movement he described as Pan awakes, or Pan meaning, the god of nature awakes. Summer marches in. The second movement he called What the Flowers in the Meadow Tell Me. The third movement was What the Forest Animals Tell Me. That's the third movement, I should say. The fourth movement is What Man Tells Me, what humans tell me. And then the fifth is What Angels Tell Me. And then the sixth is What Love Tells Me. So, when I was listening through it, the first through third movements, they're all symphonic. There's a very wide range of what I felt were emotions. Part of it's very strong and lots of horns and timpani, and then parts of it are like a march. It's like a march. What you think of like marching music, and then some of it's kind of flowing, and so there's a wide range of tempos, and I guess of instruments. It's written for a large symphony, so there were strings, horns, drums, snare drum, woodwinds. Just ran the gamut as far as that went. The fourth and fifth movements are the ones where Anne Sofie von Otter sang. She was the soloist, and then the choirs were there too. And the fourth movement, this poem, it's based, the lyrics of that in this movement is based on Nietzsche's Thus Spake Zarathustra. So it's a poem out of that work, philosophical work. And the poem itself is quite cool, and they had a translation in the program. So the translation is, "O human, give heed. What does deep midnight say? I slept. From deepest dream I have awakened. The world is deep, and deeper than the day had thought. O human, deep. Deep is its woe. Joy deeper still than heartbreak. Pain speaks, vanish. But all seeks joy. All joy seeks eternity, seeks deep, deep eternity." So this movement was very solemn as this poem was sung. And then the fifth movement was a little more, upbeat and joyous. It's what the angels, it was described as what the angels told me. And it is from a religious poem about the joy of redemption, the joy that brings. So it was sort of joyful. The children's choir sort of mimicked bells, and then the women's chorus were sort of angelic, and then the in the background, and then the soloist, she's actually sang the poem. So I won't read that poem because it's rather long, but you could find it if you wanted to look it up. Anyway, I guess the thing that really struck me about it was at the sixth movement, the very last movement of the piece. So by this time, the program's been going on for more than an hour. By the time we get to the sixth movement, and I had pretty much been engrossed through the whole thing. And that sixth movement, I think the thing that really struck me was it all suddenly came together. Like it came together, like I felt like I had been told a musical story. I don't know how to describe it into words because I don't feel like I was told a verbal story, like this happened in this, like a linear story, but I got the sense when it was over that I had been told a musical story. And I felt like, I think the feeling for me was sort of like when you finish a book and all the chapters sort of come together and you feel complete, and that's how it sort of felt like it was complete. And it was that was, sort of a new experience for me, I think, with the symphony, especially one that long. So I thoroughly, feel like I got a lot from the performance, and I've since listened to some recordings of it. The recording I've been listening to is from the Chicago Symphony Orchestra from 2007. Has a recording of it. And it's on Spotify, and I've been listening to it on Spotify, and it's also a very great recording. But hearing this performance live was different than the recording, obviously. And another thing that struck me after it was over was how that performance, since it wasn't recorded, will never be repeated because no live performance is ever the same twice. So I felt that was sort of special too, in a way. So anyway, that's my thoughts on the Symphony No. 3 by Gustav Mahler. I definitely, if you get the chance to hear a performance of this live, I got a lot out of it, and I hope you would too. So if you have anything to share, if you know more about the piece, and you want to share that, I'd be happy to learn. I'm still learning and researching about this symphony and Mahler in general. Like I said, I'm not a scholar. I'm just a person who enjoys classical music, and it's relatively new finding for me. So I've got a lot to learn, and so if you've got anything to teach, be happy to hear it. Or if you're learning too and have questions, maybe we could research them together. So down in the comments, feel free to leave any questions or input. That's it. I'll catch you guys another time. Bye.